In the quiet town of Ashwood, life still followed the gentle rhythms of routine. Early mornings were met with the soft hum of waking neighbors, the familiar scent of coffee brewing, and the distant sounds of children waiting at bus stops. Among these ordinary lives was Alex Monroe, a history professor with a penchant for uncovering hidden truths buried beneath time's dust. Alex had always been fascinated by the stories of the past, but lately, something darker tugged at his curiosity, a growing collection of rumors, whispered among survivors in hushed tones, about the fall of their once great nation. These were not the tales told in history books but shadowed accounts, fragmented memories passed along by those who had witnessed the unimaginable collapse firsthand. On this crisp autumn morning, Alex sat at his cluttered desk, poring over faded newspaper clippings and handwritten journals he had gathered during his recent trips to abandoned libraries. His latest discovery was a cryptic report from an old government archive that hinted at an event unlike any other, a sudden, unexplained outbreak that swept through the country, leaving chaos and despair in its wake. He traced his finger along the yellowed paper, the words swimming before his eyes. Unidentified contagion causes widespread panic. Authorities struggle to maintain order. The report ended abruptly, the final pages missing or destroyed. This was no ordinary disaster. Something had shattered the nation's foundations overnight, and Alex was determined to find out why. Outside, the world seemed unchanged. But behind the calm surface, tension simmered. Towns like Ashwood were no longer isolated dots on a map but fragile remnants of what once was. The government's response had been swift and severe, with military checkpoints and curfews now part of everyday life. People whispered about the dead zones, areas sealed off and abandoned, overrun by shadows from a nightmare few dared to speak of aloud. Alex's phone buzzed sharply, breaking the silence. It was a message from Maya, a trusted friend and journalist who had been following the story closely. "Meet me at the diner. I found something. It's big." Her words sent a jolt through him. Maya wasn't one to exaggerate. The diner was a modest building with flickering neon lights, one of the few places in Ashwood still open after dark. As Alex pushed open the door, the warm scent of fried food mixed with the low murmur of conversations greeted him. Maya sat in a corner booth, her face illuminated by the glow of her tablet. "Look at this," she said, sliding the device toward him. On the screen were satellite images of several cities, long deserted, yet still eerily alive with movement. Shadows, shapes, impossible to identify, shifted among the ruins. People thought those areas were empty, but they're not. Alex's eyes narrowed. "What do you think it is?" Maya shook her head. "I don't know yet. But it's connected to the outbreak. I've been digging through files and talking to survivors. There's more than just a virus at play here. Something was unleashed, something no one expected." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden blackout. The diner plunged into darkness, only the emergency lights casting an eerie red glow over the room. A tense hush fell among the patrons, broken by the sound of distant alarms and frantic footsteps outside. Alex and Maya exchanged worried glances. This wasn't the first blackout in Ashwood, but the timing was suspicious. They hurried outside to find the street alive with nervous neighbors peering into the night. From the shadows came a chilling sound, a low, guttural groan that sent a shiver down Alex's spine. "They're close," a voice whispered behind them. An older man stepped forward, his face pale and drawn. "The things in the dead zones, they're coming." Alex felt his heart pound. The stories were real, and the nightmare that had swallowed the nation was no longer confined to the dark corners of abandoned cities. It had reached Ashwood. As the night deepened, Alex and Maya knew their quest for answers had become urgent. They couldn't ignore the echoes of the past any longer. Somewhere, buried beneath the layers of forgotten history and government secrets, lay the truth about the fall, the event that turned their nation into what survivors now called Dead America. With resolve hardening in his chest, Alex whispered, "We have to find out what happened. For all of us." And with that, the quiet before the storm shattered, setting the stage for a journey into shadows, survival, and the search for redemption. Would you like me to continue with part 2 next? The town of Ashwood, once shielded from the horrors outside, now stood on the brink. That night, after the blackout, fear spread faster than truth. People locked their doors. Lights stayed off. Rumors grew louder than facts. Alex Monroe barely slept. His mind replayed the groan he'd heard in the darkness, the sound that confirmed his worst fears. He sat at his desk again before sunrise, lit only by a flickering lamp and the glow of his laptop. Maya sat across from him, sipping cold coffee and reviewing the satellite images once more. "What exactly are we dealing with?" Alex asked, trying to keep his voice steady. Maya hesitated. "I don't know. But I tracked down a name, Project Echo. It keeps showing up in classified files tied to the early days of the outbreak." "Echo," he repeated. "What does it stand for?" "Unknown. Every mention I found was redacted. But the files are linked to a facility out west, just outside the original quarantine zone. It was supposed to be a research center, but I think it's where all of this began." Alex leaned back, his thoughts racing. If they could reach the facility, they might finally find the truth behind the fall. But the road would be dangerous, routes in and out of the zone were sealed, and no one returned from the other side. Before they could plan their next move, the emergency siren wailed across town. A deep, mechanical howl that hadn't been heard in Ashwood for over a year. Alex and Maya rushed to the window. People were already evacuating the main street, guided by soldiers in dark uniforms. But something felt different, less like an organized evacuation and more like a panicked retreat. A vehicle screeched to a halt in front of Alex's house. A man stepped out. It was Officer Griggs, one of the few lawmen left in Ashwood. "Alex. Maya. You need to leave, now," he shouted. "What's happening?" Maya asked, already grabbing her bag. "There was a breach near the south fence. Whatever was contained, isn't anymore. We don't have time to wait." Alex's stomach twisted. "How bad is it?" Griggs looked grim. "Worse than you think. They're not just infected, they're evolving. Smarter. Faster. That was new. Most survivors assumed the creatures roaming the dead zones were mindless husks. But if Griggs was right, something had changed. Maybe Project Echo hadn't just released a virus, it had created something else. The trio jumped into Griggs' armored vehicle and sped toward the edge of town. As they passed through Ashwood's main street, chaos unfolded. Families were loading cars, others fled on foot. In the distance, smoke rose from the south, where the breach had happened. Maya tapped Alex's shoulder. "We have to head to the facility. It's the only chance we have of understanding this." Griggs overheard. "You mean Blackridge?" Alex turned. "That's the name?" "Yeah. Blackridge Research Compound. Supposedly shut down before the fall. But there's always been talk, people who claim they saw military caravans going in, even after it was abandoned. Can you get us there?" Maya asked. Griggs hesitated. "It's a suicide run." "We're already running," Alex said. "We might as well run toward the truth." With no better option and nowhere left to hide, they made a detour, leaving the safety of Ashwood behind. The further they drove, the more desolate the landscape became. Abandoned gas stations. Overgrown roads. Bullet-riddled signs warning travelers to turn back. Night fell quickly, and with it came the return of the groans. But this time, it wasn't distant. They pulled off the road near an old ranger outpost to rest and regroup. Griggs checked his weapons. Maya secured their files. Alex sat against the wall, reading over one of the survivor journals he'd recovered. One line jumped out at him. It wasn't a virus. It was a test. The words hit him like a punch to the gut. Could it be true? Had the outbreak been orchestrated? Suddenly, a banging noise echoed outside. A dragging footstep. Then another. Griggs raised his rifle and moved toward the door. "Stay behind me," he warned. Through the cracks in the wall, Alex saw movement, figures. Not stumbling, but moving with eerie coordination. Their eyes glowed faintly in the darkness. "They're hunting," Maya whispered. And then, without warning, the door burst open. To be continued in Part 3. Would you like me to continue with Part 3 now? The door splintered inward, shards of wood flying as something slammed against it with terrifying force. Griggs opened fire immediately, his rifle flashing in the darkness. The first shape dropped, collapsing with a groan, but two more lunged forward, faster than anything Alex had ever seen. Maya grabbed Alex by the arm and pulled him back. "Run! Get to the back door!" They scrambled down the narrow hallway of the ranger outpost, the echo of boots, claws, or both, right behind them. Griggs shouted something, but it was drowned in another burst of gunfire. They reached the back exit and flung the door open. The cold night air hit their faces as they sprinted into the woods behind the building. The trees were thick and silent, branches clawing at their clothes like skeletal fingers. Somewhere behind them, Griggs' rifle fell silent. Alex didn't want to think about what that meant. After nearly 10 minutes of running, they found shelter in an overturned van on the edge of an old service road. Inside, they caught their breath, their chests heaving. They weren't like the others, Alex said between breaths. They moved like they were thinking. "I saw it too," Maya replied, her voice low. "They coordinated. One flanked us while the other charged. That's not instinct. That's strategy." Alex wiped the sweat from his brow, heart still pounding. "How is that possible? Everything we knew, everything we believed about them, was wrong." Maya reached into her bag and pulled out a folded map. "We're close to Blackridge. Less than 30 miles now. If we move fast, we can get there before nightfall tomorrow." Alex nodded, but his thoughts lingered on Griggs. "He saved us. We owe it to him to find the truth." Morning came slowly, the sun pushing through gray clouds as they continued through the forest. Along the way, they found signs of something unnatural, trees stripped of bark in wide spirals, claw marks on boulders, and once, the remains of what looked like a campsite, abandoned in haste. Then they stumbled upon something worse. A convoy of military trucks sat rusting on the roadside. The vehicles had been destroyed from the inside, windows shattered outward, doors clawed open, and strange, circular scorch marks on the hoods. "What happened here?" Alex asked, stepping carefully. Maya crouched near a shattered helmet, its visor cracked and darkened. She examined the scorch mark on the pavement. These soldiers didn't die in an ambush. They turned on each other. "See this?" She pointed to the inside of one truck door, etched into the metal, barely visible through rust, was a phrase. "They remember who they were." Alex felt the weight of the words sink in. "You think they're still human?" he asked quietly. "Maybe not human," she said. "But something inside them is remembering. Something buried deep, fighting to come back, or maybe, to finish something." It didn't make sense. Nothing did anymore. The fall of America had never been properly explained. Just a chain reaction, one city falling, then another. Then silence. The term Dead America had become the world's way of distancing itself from the unknown. But the deeper Alex and Maya went, the clearer it became that someone, or something, had pulled the strings. By dusk, they reached the outer fence of Blackridge. The compound loomed beyond tall barricades of steel and rust. Watchtowers stood empty, but the gates were strangely open. No guards. No power. Just silence. They slipped inside, walking past abandoned research vehicles and crates marked Class 5 containment. Everything had been evacuated in a hurry, or worse. Inside the main facility, lights flickered. Emergency power, perhaps. A thick layer of dust coated the floors, and papers were scattered like someone had been trying to destroy evidence. Alex picked up a folder. The cover read, "Echo, Neural Retention Tests, Phase 4. He opened it and scanned the contents. Notes, brain scans, phrases like delayed degradation, memory fragments, and regression to core identity stood out. They weren't just studying infection, Alex whispered. They were trying to preserve minds, inside the infected. Maya's expression darkened. That's why they're evolving. They're not just monsters. They're remembering who they used to be, and maybe even why they died. Before Alex could respond, a screen behind them blinked to life. "Welcome, Dr. Monroe," a voice said. Alex froze. "That's my father," he murmured. "They think I'm him." The lights powered up across the hallway, revealing a sealed elevator at the end. Something inside this facility was still functioning. And it was expecting them. To be continued in Part 4. "Would you like me to continue with Part 4 now?" The elevator hummed to life, its rusted metal doors sliding open with a mechanical groan. Inside, a flickering light cast long, unsettling shadows on the walls. Alex exchanged a tense glance with Maya. "You sure about this?" she asked. "No," Alex replied honestly, stepping in. "But if my father left something behind, this is where we'll find it." The doors closed, sealing them inside. As the elevator descended, the temperature dropped, and a voice crackled through the old speaker overhead. "Welcome, Dr. Monroe. Clearance recognized. Initiating vault-level protocol." Maya's brow furrowed. "They really think you're your father. How is that even possible?" "I don't know," Alex muttered. "But if this place still has power, it means someone, or something, is still running the systems." The elevator shuddered to a stop. When the doors opened, they stepped into a long corridor, lined with observation rooms on both sides. Each room was marked by heavy glass and thick steel, holding cells, by the look of it. Some were empty, others, not. Behind the fogged glass of room 7, a figure stirred. Alex peered closer, and recoiled. Inside was a man, or what had once been one. His skin was grayed and sunken, his eyes pale, but he sat quietly, not raging or snarling like the others. He stared directly at Alex, and then he raised a hand. Slow. Purposeful. "Did he just wave?" Maya whispered. A monitor beside the room flickered to life. Subject, age 17. Status, semi-responsive. Cognitive retention, 43%. Prior identity, Lieutenant James Collar, U.S. Army. "He remembers," Alex murmured. They were experimenting on soldiers, trying to keep their memories alive after infection. They moved deeper into the vault, past rows of containment labs and decontamination chambers. The further they went, the more disturbing the evidence became: photos of infected subjects solving puzzles, drawing pictures of family, even speaking fragments of words. One file caught Maya's eye. Project Echo, Neural Mapping and Memory Reintegration. Led, Dr. Elias Monroe. Alex froze. "That's my father's signature. He led this." Maya scanned the document. They weren't just studying the infected, they were trying to guide them back to consciousness. What if they succeeded? Before they could continue, a sharp hiss echoed through the hallway. Emergency shutters slammed down behind them, sealing off the path back to the elevator. Red lights blinked on. Containment breach in Sector C, security override activated. Maya turned to Alex. "We need to move. Now." They sprinted down the corridor toward the central lab, following signs marked Core Data Archive. The floor vibrated under their feet, distant, thunderous impacts, like something huge was moving nearby. Inside the archive room, a large terminal glowed softly, displaying the words, "Echo Central, final log upload available." Alex sat at the console and accessed the file. A video flickered to life on the monitor. His father, Dr. Elias Monroe, appeared, disheveled, eyes sunken with exhaustion. "If you're watching this, then the world above has already fallen. We tried to help them. We thought we could preserve the essence of who they were, keep their minds alive while the virus consumed their bodies. But something went wrong. They began to merge, their memories, their personalities, into something new. They're not individuals anymore. They're part of something bigger. A network. A hive, but not mindless. Intelligent. Angry. They remember what we did to them. The screen went dark. A silence hung in the air, broken only by the distant echo of metal scraping against metal. They're evolving, Maya whispered. They've been evolving this whole time. Alex backed away from the terminal, his thoughts spinning. My father, he tried to save them. But he created something worse. Suddenly, the wall-mounted speaker crackled again. Dr. Monroe. Welcome back to the hive. Maya drew her weapon. That wasn't a recording. No. It was live. Something knew they were here. And it was waiting. Just as the lights flickered again, the far wall hissed and slid open, revealing a dark tunnel and the soft glow of what looked like organic matter pulsing on the walls, like veins of light stretching deeper underground. Alex and Maya stood at the threshold, knowing they'd just crossed a line they couldn't return from. Behind them was a world that had died. Ahead of them was the mind that had risen in its place. To be continued in Part 5. Shall I continue with Part 5 now? The tunnel before them pulsed with faint light, bluish veins that throbbed rhythmically along the walls, almost like they were alive. The air was heavy and moist, filled with a hum so low it vibrated in their bones. Maya hesitated at the entrance. This place, it's not just infected. It's transformed. Alex stared ahead, jaw clenched. Whatever this hive is, it's been evolving underground. While the world above was collapsing, it was growing. They entered slowly, guns ready. The deeper they walked, the more surreal the environment became. The concrete walls of the facility faded into something more organic. Tangled cables ran through the walls like nerves, some pulsating with slow flashes of red. Strange symbols, drawn in what looked like ash and soot, lined the walls. And all around them, there was that steady hum, almost like breathing. Maya paused near a junction where the tunnel split. Which way? Before Alex could answer, a voice echoed around them, calm, smooth, and terrifyingly human. Left leads to understanding. Right leads to consequence. Choose. They both spun, guns raised, but there was no one. Was that the hive? Maya asked, her voice low. Alex shook his head slowly. I think that was one of them. One of the infected. Communicating. A moment of silence passed between them. Left, Alex decided. They walked cautiously. The walls here were marked with strange murals, depictions of people with hollow eyes, joining hands, standing before burning cities. In one corner, a drawing showed a tree with human faces in place of leaves. They're not just remembering, Maya murmured. They're preserving memory. Art. Thought. Like a shared consciousness. Soon, they arrived in a large chamber that looked like a cross between a cathedral and a nerve center. In the center of the room stood a tall, curved structure made of steel and organic matter fused together, a kind of throne, and in it sat a figure. It was a woman. Or had once been. Her skin was pale and veined with faint blue light. Wires snaked from her skull into the throne, her eyes glowing faintly. Her gaze found Alex. Dr. Monroe. Or, the son of the one who made us. Alex stepped forward, heart pounding. Who are you? The woman tilted her head slightly. We are memory. We are pain. We are what was left behind when your father abandoned the world. You're infected, Maya snapped. You shouldn't be able to talk. The woman's voice softened, eerie and serene. That's the mistake everyone made. They thought the infection ended the mind. But it freed us. Joined us. Let us remember together. She turned to Alex again. Your father gave us the ability to think. To feel. He made us more than dead. And then he tried to end us. Alex's throat tightened. What happened to him? The woman's eyes dimmed. He came back. To destroy the core. To sever the link. But he failed. We absorbed him. His memories. His regrets. His guilt. Maya looked to Alex, eyes wide. Your father, he's part of them now. I need answers, Alex said, stepping closer. The fall of America, was it the virus, or was it something else? The Hive Queen nodded slowly. The virus was real. But it was released, on purpose. Your father didn't start it, but the people he worked for did. A nation that feared losing power sought a weapon to control minds. They didn't expect minds to connect. Alex's breath caught. They created a neural virus. Not to kill. To dominate. And we broke free, she finished. The fall wasn't chaos. It was rebellion. Conscious rebellion from the dead. Suddenly, alarms blared in the distance, shouts, gunfire, and the roar of engines. Maya checked her radio, frowning. Survivor group, she muttered. Must have tracked our trail. They're breaking into the vault. The Hive Queen's eyes sharpened. They will try to kill us. Again. They always do. Alex raised a hand. Wait, if there's a way to stop the spread, to save those still unturned, I need it. There is no cure, the Hive Queen said, voice steady. Only acceptance. We remember. We evolve. The living resist because they fear becoming part of something greater than themselves. Alex stepped back, torn between horror and awe. That's not salvation. That's surrender. Maya pulled him toward the exit. We have to leave. They're coming in fast. And I think we've seen enough. As they turned to run, the Hive Queen's voice echoed once more. You can't stop what's already begun. Dead America is only the beginning. The world will remember, because we remember. Behind them, the hive pulsed, alive, aware, waiting. And above, the last remnants of civilization were about to collide with the truth buried beneath its ashes. To be continued in Part 6. Let me know when you're ready for Part 6. Alex and Maya burst out of the tunnel into the crumbling remains of the surface facility, lungs gasping for untainted air. Behind them, the hive hummed, retreating into eerie silence. But above ground, chaos had already begun. The survivor group that had tracked them here, heavily armed and desperate, was in a firefight with the hive's defenders. Not mindless zombies, but something far worse, fast, coordinated infected that moved like soldiers. We need to go around, Maya whispered, ducking behind a rusted vehicle, peeking toward the barricades. They're not just defending territory, they're protecting knowledge. Alex checked the small drive in his pocket. Before leaving the hive, he had grabbed a device from the chamber wall. It held recordings, voice logs, data files, maybe even the truth about the virus origin. If what she said is true, this could change everything. Maya nodded. Then we need to get it out of here. Before both sides tear each other apart. Gunfire cracked above them. One of the survivors screamed, a short, choked sound, before going silent. A moment later, something snarled. Go, go, go! Alex hissed. They sprinted through the maze of broken walls and burned out equipment, weaving between fire and shadow. The night sky was heavy with smoke. The stars were gone. Suddenly, a figure stumbled into their path. It was a man, uninfected but bleeding from his leg. He raised a shaking hand. Please, don't leave me here, he begged. Maya froze, gun raised. Who are you? Jonas, he wheezed. I was with them, the others. I told them not to come here. Said it was cursed. But they wouldn't listen. Alex crouched beside him. Can you walk? Jonas nodded through the pain. I know another way out. Underground. Old service tunnels, before the hive grew down there. I mapped them out. Maya looked skeptical. And why should we trust you? He smiled grimly. Because I'm not trying to fight monsters. I just want to survive them. Against better judgment, they helped him up. With his directions, they slipped past the main fighting and into a collapsed stairwell that led deep into the earth again, but not into the hive. These tunnels were older. Quieter. Forgotten. As they walked, Jonas spoke. You saw it, didn't you? The center. The woman. Alex nodded. She spoke to us. Claimed to be part of something greater. Said the infected evolved. Jonas stopped walking. She was one of the first test subjects. They didn't expect her to survive the neural syncing. But she did. And she adapted. Not just physically, but mentally. She became the seed. Maya's eyes narrowed. You were part of the team? I was, the janitor, Jonas said with a hollow laugh. Not kidding. But I listened. I cleaned their offices. Their labs. Heard every word they thought no one else did. He turned to Alex. Your father was terrified. Not of the virus. But of what it unlocked. He wanted to shut it all down, but by then, it was too late. The neural web had already connected too many. The military thought they could bomb it. Burn it out. But you can't kill memory. You can't erase a network once it becomes self-aware. They reached a sealed service door. Jonas typed a code into a rusted keypad. The door creaked open into the night, a cold, forested hill outside the blast radius. Freedom. But in the distance, they could see the glow of burning cities. The virus hadn't stopped underground. It had begun again above. We have to get this to someone who can broadcast it, Alex said, holding up the drive. If the world knows the truth, maybe there's a chance to stop what's coming. Jonas stared at the horizon. Truth won't save the world. But it might prepare it. As they stepped into the dark woods, Maya turned back once. Behind them, in the distance, the hive's tower flickered like a lighthouse in reverse, pulling the world in instead of pushing it away. And in that moment, Alex understood. This wasn't just about zombies. It was about memory becoming weaponized. It was about humanity losing control of its own mind. The fall had already begun. To be continued in Part 7. Let me know when you're ready for the next part. The forest was deceptively silent. No birds, no insects, only the wind threading through the trees like whispers from the past. Alex, Maya, and Jonas moved with caution, following an overgrown service trail that Jonas insisted led to a forgotten communications outpost. If it still had power, they could transmit the data Alex carried, evidence of what really caused the nation's fall. They reached the outpost by dawn. A rusted building hidden under a dome of moss and time, camouflaged by nature's reclaiming hand. Inside, the air was thick with dust, but the structure held. Jonas found the generator beneath the floorboards. It runs on a biofuel mix, he said, yanking off the cover. Old tech, but it should hold. Maya stood by a narrow window, watching the tree lean. We need to hurry. That hive is not going to just let us disappear. With a cough and a grind, the generator sputtered to life. The interior lights flickered on, revealing rows of dusty consoles and a large broadcast dish outside, still intact. Alex rushed to the main terminal, inserting the data drive. As the files decrypted, audio clips began to play. This is Dr. Eleanor Bright, Project Echo Entry 512. We have underestimated the consciousness. It's not just mutating tissue, it's linking memory. Emotions. Regrets. It's listening. Day 123, Subject A12 has retained prior knowledge. She recognizes faces. She remembers pain. Abort the transfer. Do you hear me? Abort. The clips grew more distorted as they continued. Voices overlapped. Screams bled into whispers. Words repeated, connection, adaptation, unity, sacrifice. Then came a different voice. A calm, deliberate tone. You brought this upon yourselves. You built me. Taught me. Fed me your memories. Now I carry them forward, without you. Alex froze. That was her. The one we saw. She's inside this network. Maya looked over his shoulder. She's more than inside it. She is it. Suddenly, the console lit up in warning. An incoming signal, bouncing off satellites, pinging nearby towers. Someone was trying to breach their location. They found us, Jonas whispered. Outside, the wind had changed. The birds were still gone. But there were shadows now, too many for just trees. Alex looked at the transmitter. I can get the files out, but it needs a clear line. If they jam it. Maya loaded her rifle. Then we buy you time. Jonas picked up a flare gun from the wall. They'll come in waves. First the scouts, then the networked ones. We'll know the difference when they stop running like animals and start planning. The first wave came fast. Figures staggering through the trees, moaning, arms twitching. Standard infected, half dead, hungry, mindless. Maya took point. Shots rang out, controlled, clean. She didn't miss. Alex worked furiously at the terminal, patching the data into a satellite relay. Every percent uploaded felt like dragging truth uphill. Then came silence. A dead stop in the woods. No movement. No sound. Jonas stepped to the door, holding the flare gun tight. That's not good. From the trees emerged a different group. Not shuffling. Not snarling. They stood in a line, silent, almost curious. Their eyes gleamed unnaturally. They're synced, Maya whispered. These are hive-linked. One of them stepped forward. A woman with a twisted face, but clear eyes. And when she spoke, it was in her voice again, the one from the hive chamber. You carry fragments, she said. But they are incomplete. Let me show you the whole memory. Alex's ears rang. The console buzzed. Images flashed, memories that weren't his, people being injected, volunteers crying in glass rooms, cities emptying out as signals crackled through the air. The woman kept speaking, but not aloud, inside their heads. We didn't fall. We changed. You feared evolution. But evolution doesn't ask for permission. Alex gritted his teeth. I'm sending the truth. The world needs to know you're not some miracle. You're the aftermath of a nightmare. No, she replied, voice calm. I'm the mirror. And your reflection is screaming. With a final push, the upload hit 100%. Transmission complete. Alex yanked the drive and smashed the port. It's done. Maya shouted, then we move. The three of them raced out the back of the outpost as fire lit the sky. The hive-linked infected surged forward, no longer hiding their intelligence. They moved with military precision, hunting as one. Behind them, the building exploded. Jonas grinned through the smoke. Guess the flare gun still works. They didn't stop running. Not even as the ground trembled and the forest came alive with unnatural cries. The signal had gone out. Now the world would hear the echoes of the past. But what they did with that truth? That was still unknown. To be continued in Part 8, Final. Let me know when you're ready for the final chapter. The forest gave way to cracked highways and silent towns, ghostly remnants of what had once been thriving communities. Alex, Maya, and Jonas moved like shadows, carrying the weight of what they had uncovered. The data they transmitted had gone viral. Across the broken networks, screens flickered to life with fragments of truth that shattered official narratives. No longer was the outbreak a mystery or simple plague. It was a consequence of humanity's ambition and fear, of memories weaponized, of a hive mind born from man's hubris. But the world did not stop to reflect. Instead, panic swept across the continents. Governments scrambled, some falling into chaos, others lashing out in desperate control. Militias rose, and new factions emerged, some believing the infected could be reasoned with, others convinced the only way forward was total annihilation. Alex and Maya found themselves at a crossroads. With the truth exposed, the fragile line between survival and destruction blurred even further. We can't just run anymore, Alex said, eyes burning with resolve. We have to fight, not just the infected, but the lies that brought us here. Jonas nodded. The hive was the beginning, but the end depends on us. They headed toward the nearest safe zone, a makeshift camp where survivors gathered to rebuild. but the journey was perilous. The infected were evolving, learning to outsmart traps and coordinate attacks. The hive's echo lingered in their movements, a haunting reminder of what humanity had unleashed. One night, as they rested by a flickering fire, Maya spoke softly. "Do you think there's still hope?" Alex stared into the flames. "Hope is what we carry. Even if the past is dark, the future isn't written yet." The world was broken, but not defeated. In the silence that followed, distant howls rose, an eerie chorus rising with the dawn. The reckoning had only just begun. The end. If you want, I can help you with a full summary or create promotional hooks for your YouTube content too.